Today we're going to work with WordPerfect 6.0 for Windows. Some of the best features of WordPerfect 6.0 are the menu bar, the power bar, the button bar, the status bar, and the templates for creating quick documents. Each of these things is a feature new to WordPerfect 6.0. We're going to explore the bars first, and then we'll open up a sample template, the newsletter template. Just take a look at how it's created so that we can create a template of our own. These are the skills that you're going to learn in this particular video. Let's get started with the bars. The first bar that we find here is the menu bar. The File, Edit, View, Insert, Layout, Tools, Graphics, Table, Window, and Help. These all are part of the menus of WordPerfect. And each of these, when you click and hold down, display options that you can choose from. You can just roll your mouse to the right and see how things are. Now, the button bar right below that are some of the features that are found in the menus. The power bar below that are options from the menus. The difference between the two is that these are full features, where these here are just simple functions. Let's look at how those work. If you watch the blue bar above, when you click on a button or when you just position your cursor over the button, it explains that button to you. This particular button is for indents. It indents the current paragraph one tab stop. That F7 is also the key equivalent, which means that you can use F7 to create the exact same atmosphere as you would by clicking the indent button. The next are bullets. This is for creating a bulleted list. And it tells us in the bar above that bullets and numbers. Insert bullets and numbers into the document. The next area is a date text. This will insert the current date at the insertion point. The insertion point is this blinking bar right here, also known as the cursor. When you choose date text, like we can, it inserts the date into our document. The envelope will create an envelope for us. So if we have text already typed out, we can click on this power bar, on this button bar, and print an envelope from here. This is mail merge. A mail merge is a function where you can have two documents and merge them together for printing. For instance, perhaps you wanted to write a letter to all of your clients and you wanted to insert important data that was modified periodically. Maybe the total that they owed you for that month or the total that you owed them for that month. You could put all of that information in a database and merge the two documents together for printing. The next area here is Draw. Create a graphic in WordPerfect Draw. This is a fairly handy little draw program, and if we click on it, the draw program will begin. Now we actually have a tablet for drawing simple graphics. You also have colors and fills and patterns and different kinds of lines. From the File menu, you can choose Close and return to the document. So that's how you could create a graphic to place directly in your document. Here's Chart. That's how you would create a chart for your document. And that takes you back to WordPerfect Draw, but it also enables you to set up specific kinds of charts. Let's click at that. Let's click that and see how that works. It's a little different in that it asks us for the information that would go into our chart. These are cells, and you would fill the cells with the numbers that would be a part of your chart. So if you look here, first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter, it tells us that those are the labels. And right down here at the bottom part of our chart, those are the labels. The chart editor is a rather advanced feature, and it's something that we'll come back to later. Once again, from the File menu, close and return to Document 2. Do I need to save the changes? I do not. Click No. The next button that we have here is Text Art, and this is one of the swiftest features of WordPerfect. What it enables you to do is take headlines and manipulate them. So all of these different shapes, we can take this text or whatever your text is in this box. Let's select this and type our own text. There's our title. And now you can see the text displayed. You can choose fonts, styles, and how it would fill a shape. Click a different shape and it tries to fill that shape with that particular letter style. All of those are complemented by being able to change the color, the outline, and the fills of each of the character letters. Choosing a different font would probably make this a little easier to read. Try that one more time. Now you can see how this works. Just choose a shape and it fills the shape. Here again, choose File, Exit, and return to WordPerfect. Do we want to update these embedded objects? In other words, do we want to place these objects in the WordPerfect document? We can tell it to do that. And this is where our graphic would be displayed. There we go. Now you can see our headline. The next button here is Figure. This is how we would place a graphic in the document. Right now, because my text art is selected, I can't get to that button. So click off anywhere on your document and now you can choose your button bar again. Here's Figures. If we look at the bar above, it says, here's how you retrieve a figure. A figure might be something that you drew in WordPerfect Draw. Here is a list of some figures that WordPerfect has included for you to use. Just double click on one and it places it in the document. There it is. The next area here, and once again it's dimmed because we have something selected, click off. The next area is the text box. This is how we can insert text. We'll use this later on in the video when we place an inside this issue box. You'll see how that works, but again, like all other buttons, you just click and it places it at the insertion point, so wherever your cursor is blinking. This next area, Quick Format, allows you to copy current font attributes or paragraph styles and copy them to other text paragraphs. So for instance, perhaps you have headlines that are 48-point bold type, and you don't want to keep selecting those either from the menus or the menu bars or the power bar or the button bar. You can select all of that and store it into a quick format for application all at one time. That's another advanced feature that we'll work with later. Styles allows us to create, edit, and select styles. The same sort of thing as the quick format. This is how we would store a style. Here's the headings. Here's initial styles. All these different kinds of styles are already stored. Here's how we could apply them. The next area here is the power bar. And this power bar has the individual options of the menu bar. The first thing that we'll need to do in order to work with our power bar is close this bar that has popped up. This bar came up when we imported the graphic. Let's close it and now go back and work with the power bar. The first icon that you see here is the new document icon. We'll be using a new document later, but we'll choose it from the File menu. Remember when we do that instead you can just click this button. The next icon is Open a Document. We'll be using that one also. That's how we opened our template. The next icon is Save. This is how you actually write the file to the disk, whether it's a floppy disk or a hard disk. Saving a document and working in a document are not the same thing. Without saving a document, you will not be able to open it later. The next icon is Print. Here's how you print your document. You do not have to save a document to print it. You can print very quick documents that you really don't need to keep track of. The next one is Cut. This is how you would remove text from an area and place it somewhere else. Let's look at how that works. The way that you select text in WordPerfect is 3 clicks for a line, 2 clicks for a word. So let's just cut, click, click, the word January, click for cut, move our cursor, click to place, and select the next one icon over, which is paste. There we go, there's January. This icon right in between the two is copy. That's how we could copy a particular selection of text, like this one, copy, and click, paste. So you can see that cut actually moved January. It took it away from where it was and placed it somewhere else. But copy duplicated the date and pasted it somewhere else. Next icon is undo. This is how we revert to the last change that we made. Click here and that's removed. Click again and it puts it back. So undo is sort of a toggle switch between the last two moves that you made. The next area here is font face or typeface. Let's select this line and actually change the font face. Change to Arial. We'll be doing this again later also. The next one that we have here is size. Here's how you choose a size for your text. And you can see that once it ran into my graphic boxes, it moved all over the page. Well, that's probably too large for the area that I have, so I'll make it a little smaller, and that works out fine. Here's bold type, italic type, underline type, and here's tabs. These are all things that we'll be working with later. Just watch your blue bar up there if you forget what these icons are for. This is how you create a table. Once you click on the icon, you're able to tell it what kinds of tables that you want. We'll be working with this later as well. Here's columns. Here's how you define how many columns of text you have and the space between columns. This is paragraph alignment. Would you like your paragraphs to flush to the left column and have a ragged right edge? Or would you like them to flush to the right column and have a ragged left edge? Or justified, so that it's justified on both column edges. Those are your choices there. And once again, this is something that we'll work with in our newsletter. The next area here is spacing. This is the amount of spacing between lines of text. Let's go down here and just click after the text and hit the Enter key, and that's the second line. Now when we select both lines, we can tell it what kind of spacing we would like to have, like space and a half or double space. When I choose double space, once again I've run out of room for my text, and I can rectify that by clicking on the box and moving it down. Now I have room for both lines of text. The next power button we have here is 100%. That's the size of our document in the window. If we click there, we can choose from different sizes. We can show margin width, page width, full page, or others. Let's choose 50% so that we can see our document. This shows most of the document that we have. It might trim off a little from the top and bottom, and if you had a larger page, it would definitely trim off from top and bottom. This next area is the spell check. This is how you would check your document for misspelled words. It also will check things like double words, words used twice in a row, or irregular capitalization. It wouldn't like video kinetics very much with that capital letter right in the center. Here's a thesaurus. This will display the synonyms and antonyms for a word. The next is grammatic. Grammatic will actually check your document for those following things: for grammar, mechanics and style, or show spelling errors. It's really just sort of a mini proofreader. It kind of looks over your document and looks for inconsistencies. Close this window and go to the next one, which is page zoom full. Select the page view, zoom to full page size. Click there and there's our entire page displayed for us. Click again and it returns us back to the view we were using. The last power button that we have here is the View button bar. This hides the current button bar. This is the one that we're using. If we click it, look what happened. The button bar above it disappeared. Click there again, and it brings the button bar back. That's how the power bar and the button bar work in WordPerfect 6.0. The status bar is at the bottom of the page, and it will keep you updated on the kinds of things that you have available to you. Let's look at how that works now. The status bar is right down here, and it shows us the status of whatever is selected. Right now, our text line has the cursor in it, and that text line is Arial Regular 18 point. Now, reveal codes is probably one of the most complex things about WordPerfect 6.0, but it is very, very useful. I'd like to try to get you into using it just a little bit so that you can use it later as you become more familiar with WordPerfect on more complex issues. What Reveal Codes has displayed for us here is that the font is Bernard Modern, that the first piece of text is 5, and then this diamond indicates that there's a space bar there. Then 1994, spacebar, January, spacebar, 5, That red icon right there shows exactly where the cursor is placed in your document. Then another spacebar, 1994, spacebar, and then the font changes. It changes to Courier, New Courier, Regular, and then a hard return. That's what that HRT means. This is a way that you can edit your document from the codes. For instance, maybe we don't like this particular font. Let's click a little further over and delete that font. I just used my arrow key to get to the other side of the font, click delete, and it now takes that font out. Now check your document. Look what that's done. It actually stripped out the font. So reveal codes can actually be used to edit your document from in the coding portion. You can change the font and the size or where things are located in the document. You can change whether or not there's a return after it. For now, let's get started with our newsletter. The templates are documents already created with a format to them. You can just add your own text. We're going to do that as our first lesson. We're going to use a newsletter and create a one-page newsletter. This newsletter is going to give you a real good overview of the kinds of tools available to you in WordPerfect 6.0. Let's try getting started with that. To begin, you'll need to go to your File menu and open a document. You can use the Template command, and that will take you directly to the template folder. But because Open is a skill we'll need for later on, we'll go ahead and try Open. You can see here in the Directories portion of the window that the WordPerfect Windows 6.0 folder is here, and below that the WordPerfect Documents folder. It's open, and that means that the documents listed here are contents of this folder. Let's return to the WordPerfect 6.0 folder. Double-click on the folder, and now you get a listing of the loose documents as well as the folders that are contained in this folder. I'm going to go to the Templates folder, double-click, and now here is a list of the templates available. I'll use the scroll bar to scroll up or down to find the template that I'm looking for. I want to use Newsletter 2. Double-click on the file, and WordPerfect opens that document. Now that our template is opened, we can edit these specific line changes. For instance, we could enter in our own headline name. So let's do that. The way that you select text in WordPerfect is either by clicking and dragging through the letters, but I already have them highlighted, or you can double-click on a word to select it. This word is now completely selected because I double-clicked on it. Just use your keyboard to type in a new title. The text that is highlighted is automatically replaced with the new text. There's no need to delete the text before you begin typing. In this next line, we're able to add an issue number, a date, and text. Here's a sample headline and sample text. This is how you work with the template. You can continue working with this template, but we're going to close this template and create our own newsletter. So we'll return to the File menu and choose Close. It asks if we would like to save these changes. We do not. Click No, and you begin with a new document. This is where we're going to create our newsletter, and we'd like to make it look similar to the one that we just saw. So let's start by typing a headline, preferably spelled correctly. There's our headline. Now once again, I can double-click to select that word. The word is selected, and now I'm going to use the power bar, this bar here, to make changes to that text. The button bar is a shortcut for pulling up different features of the menus. The power bar is for specific menu options, such as bold type or a typeface. This one that I'm clicked on now is actually the undo button. And if I click here, the text that I just typed will disappear all the way back to my last edit. Click undo one more time, and it puts the text back. So let's try selecting the text and changing the typeface or the font. You can tell that this is the button for that by checking the bar up here. Right in here in the blue area. Watch when I click on this bar, or even just position my pointer over the button, how it changes to font face. Change the typeface of printed characters. So that tells me what I can do with this button. Click the button, and I get a list of available typefaces. I'll go down the list until I find one that I like. Let's choose this one. Just click one time, and it changes the font. I'll click off so that you can see that. See how it's now in a script? That script is called Shelley Volante. Double-click one more time, and let's change the size now. Position the pointer over the A and check the bar at the top, and it does say font size. Here's how we change the size of printed characters. Click there, and you don't need to click and hold down. Just click on the letter and then scroll down to the size that you want. Let's use 48. And now my text is in 48 point. We can continue across the power bar here by selecting other items. This B is for bold. Let's use that. Here's italic. Italic on a script typeface probably is a little redundant, so we'll continue on. In fact, I'm going to skip over here to the one that says left and has a little icon of the paragraph. If we click there, and here we'll have to hold down, we'll choose right, center, full, or all. Full and all are both justified types of paragraphs, which means that they're even on both the left and right side. The difference between the two is on full, the last line flushes left. But for our headline, let's choose centered. Now the headline is centered in the active area of the document. The active area is the area not including the margins. And we can't see where our margins are because they're not indicated in this particular view. Let's choose now to go on to the next line. We'll click after the word kinetics, hit return or enter on your keyboard, and now we're ready to begin the next line of text. But that line of text is also centered, and if we begin typing, we can see that it is centered directly below video kinetics. So let's delete those two characters and go back up to the paragraph alignment and choose left. Now remember that all of these options that we're selecting from the power bar are contents of the menu bar, which are up here. For instance, if we select layout, we can see here in paragraph the kinds of things that you would do with a paragraph. There is also document, columns, headers, footers, and here's font. So just like we could choose font from the button, we can select it here also. So there's nothing in this bar that is not included in the menus. Now let's start typing some text for our newsletter. Well, this would be very time consuming, so what I'm going to do is import some text or bring text in from another document. I'll return to the File menu and open an existing document. I'm going to go back to the WordPerfect 6.0 folder and choose the bike memo. Double click and the bike memo opens. Now actually both documents are open, but the bike memo is in front. Now let's select this text. I don't need all of it, but I'll select right down to here and use the power bar one more time to cut the text from this page. Use the scissors and it cuts the text. Now let's close this document and our newsletter will come back to the front. I do not need to save changes. Click no. So here's my newsletter. When I cut that text, it actually placed it in an area of the computer system called the clipboard. Now I can paste from the clipboard as well using this paste command, or I could have copied the text, not removed it from the other document, and pasted that as well. So click the paste command, and now here's the text that I stole from the bike memo. This text, whether it's typed in or imported, can be edited in exactly the same way as the text we used in our headline. So I'll click and drag straight down, just like I did, to highlight this text. Now let's go to the typeface and change it to all be the same. You notice that when I cut and pasted the text from the earlier document, it maintained its formatting. It's still in the same typeface with the same line spacing, and here's some text that's still underlined. Well, we can take that out or alter it as we'd like. So let's choose a new type size. Let's choose 10 point, because that's a good size for text, and you can see that it got a little smaller. Let's choose the typeface. We'll use letter Gothic. Let's choose not bold or italic or underline, but here's tab stops, and I don't need those yet, but I do need left, right, center, or full. Let's justify these lines. Full justify, and let's also divide it into two columns. Use columns off, which is what we have now. That's where the text goes from margin to margin. You could also select one of these other columns, but if you choose define, not only can you select how many columns, but what style of column. So here we have two columns, and we have a balanced newspaper. Watch the icon here when I click on the other buttons. There's newspaper, there's parallel, and there's parallel with block protect. You can see how it changes the effect of the paragraphs. Here I can change the width of the column, the width of the space, or the width of the second column. I like the way those look, so I'm going to leave those. But you can click and drag through them and change the value if you don't like the way yours are. If you check the fixed box here, you'll ensure that the column stays that particular width and that it flexes the space between them. Click OK. We now have two fully justified columns, but what we also have is one column that's a bit shorter, and that's because we're in full justify. If we change these paragraphs back to left justify, they will come out even on the bottom. So it's sort of one or the other here. You can either get them to justify vertically or horizontally, but not both at the same time. Okay, the reason that I pulled those up to even columns is because I want to use the bottom part of my page to create other things. The next thing that we're going to add to our single page newsletter is an inside box, or a table of contents type box. And the way that you need to do that is you have to exit first the two column format that you're in. So click somewhere else in the document. That moves your cursor, but then hit enter or return depending on your keyboard. This breaks away from the paragraph formatting that's above it. Click the text box in the button bar, and that automatically makes a text box. And it's an editable box as far as width and height. See how I get an arrow when I get close to it? I can also come down here and get sort of a sideways arrow, and that allows me to drag it down deeper. So this is where we put our text. Let's say inside this issue. And we'll try to spell it all correct. And then hit return. And let's say story 1 on page what? 1. Now I used a tab here, and you can't see that, but let's show paragraphs so that you can. That's in the edit menu. I'm sorry, that's in the view menu. Go show paragraphs. And look, now you can see the tab that I typed. These black boxes are actually space bars in between the words. The paragraph symbol is obvious. But let's go down now, hit return, and type the next sentence. Story 2, we'll say, is on page 2. And story 3, tab, page 3. All right, so again, this is an editable box, and we'll come back and change the size. Let's go ahead and make it a little bit narrower. I would like it to be the same width as my column. So I'll just click and drag it, and now it is. And then I'm going to select the text inside and set tabs for that text. I actually don't need that top line because there's not even a tab in it, but we'll try the second, third, and fourth line. Click those, and let's return again to the power bar and choose tabs. That's what this L with the arrow is. And what we need are to set tabs. Now we get a whole new bar up here, and these are all left tabs. They're the default tabs, but we aren't going to need any of those. And I can choose to remove them all by going back to the power bar and clear all tabs, and then set a new one. And the kind of tab that I want has a fill character in it. And that's what these show. See the dots that go before the word right? That's a fill character, or a leader. So we'll select that kind of tab, and then go down here to the ruler below the margins and click for our right tab. So that shows a guideline all the way down the page indicating where exactly our tabs will align to. Let go, and look what happens down here to our spaces. Let's scroll down just a little bit. Now that we have this text box with text in it and it's aligned properly, we can close this bar that applies just to that tab bar. These are the options for our text box and our tabs. Up here are the tabs that we were using, and here is the information about the text box. For instance, we could choose a different kind of border from here. Click on the border fill, and here's the kind of border that we currently have, a rule above and below. But click here, and we get other styles. So we can go in here and choose something that appeals to us. How about this one? Click OK, and the text box now is housed with that drop shadow border. Now that we're finished making changes from this bar, we'll close it, and go back to the Edit menu, go back to the View menu, and hide the paragraphs. The text box is blank, and it makes it seem as though we have nothing in it. But if you want to see what's in it, just click on it and move it, place it back, and you can once again see your text. Let's go down and make one more different kind of object here. Let's use this to make a table. I'll just click here and go to Table. Now the first thing it tells us is that there's no table, but we can tell it how big of table we want. Perhaps we want 3 columns wide and 4 columns deep. 3 columns wide and 4 rows deep. In WordPerfect, a column is a vertical. A row is a horizontal. So these are rows while these are columns. I'm just going to click on my text box here and move it out of the way until I've finished with my table. Now I'll scroll to the top, and now that it's not in the way, come back down here. Now that the text box is not in the way, the table looks reasonable. Here are my 3 columns and 4 rows. If we click in the first 3 columns and drag through, this is where my headline for my table is going to be. So I'll click here and go up to Table. This time we'll use the menu. Let's join these 3 boxes or cells, and now I can type a headline in there that will stretch across the entire table. This text, like all other text, is fully editable, so we can click 3 times, select the whole line, make it bold, choose a typeface, make it centered, and all the other kinds of things that we would do with our normal text. There's our headline. Now these 2 boxes I'm going to use for my column heads. So I'll type column, head, 1, use the tab key to travel to the next cell, column, head, 2. Now these also are editable. Select them both, make them centered. Some of these items won't take effect until we've clicked somewhere else in the document. Bold, and a typeface. Or here's a size, and now a typeface. Something scripty, how's that? Now notice that the cell got a little deeper because the text that I was placing in it was too tall for the narrower row. Down here now we'll add text. Use tab to travel to the next line, not return. If we go back here and use the return, watch what happens. The cell gets deeper. So we won't do that. We'll go here and click or use the tab key. Now we can also tell it what kinds of cells we want to have. These are still editable as far as size and placement goes, but let's also tell it what kind of cell. We'll choose these 2 because those are dollar signs, and go up to Table and choose Number Type. Here are our options. We can have accounting, we can have commas, we can have currency, date and time, general, integer, percent, scientific, or text. And none of those really interest me. The one that I need right here is currency. Select currency for this column. Click OK. And I now have dollar signs with decimal points. And let's flush these to the right. Let's send them to the right part of the cell. Choose this, flush right. Select these 2 columns now, or this column and these 2 rows. Go to Table, tell it Number Type, and we'd like to select the date and time, and here's a preview of how it should look. But we haven't typed with these parameters, so it's not going to change what we've typed. But had we typed in January 5th, it would have made sure that it displayed in that particular style. Click OK, and it just leaves our text as is. Go now and choose Right, or how about Centered, just for something a little different here. Click off into a new cell, and it centers the text. Let's go back to the top of our document now and just talk about the things that we've learned. We learned how to type text into a new document. We also learned how to open a template and work inside the template just by selecting the text and replacing it with the text that we wanted. Here we typed our own text. We used the power bar to change our text attributes, and we've also used the button bar here to work with other features that would normally be found in the menus. So we centered our text, we chose a typeface and a type size. Then we came here and we cut text from another document, we pasted it into this document, we flushed it left, we justified it, and we also worked with columns. Remember that you can choose the number of columns, but by choosing Define, you can also choose the amount of space between columns and how the columns align to each other. Scroll down and review the other things we've learned. Here we learned how to insert a table. We joined cells so that we could have a headline that spanned all 3 columns. We chose text in here and made some dollar signs and some dates, and we flushed it right, we centered, and changed the font, just like you can do with your regular text. Down in this corner, we used the button bar to insert a text box. This text box contains our inside information, what would be found inside this issue. We also learned how to change the border on that box, as well as position it and change the size of it. Here we learned how to work with tabbed leaders or dots in the tabs. Now we've created a fairly simple document in WordPerfect 6.0, but you've learned a lot. You've opened documents, opened templates, saved documents, created text, brought text in from other documents, created tables, created text boxes, spell checked. All of those things are fairly simple and made even simpler using the button bar and power bar. But there are more advanced features of WordPerfect, and we've included those in another video by Video Kinetics. It's WordPerfect 6.0 Advanced Features. I hope you learned something today, and I hope you'll join us again.